Thank you for listening to the BjjBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the BjjBrick Podcast. This is episode 324 with Lachlan Giles. Gary said before we came on the air that everything Gary knows about jiu-jitsu, he learned from Lachlan Giles. Now, that doesn't mean he knows everything Lachlan knows about jiu-jitsu, but he's coming along okay. We're going to start this episode off with a quote, and it is by Gregg Popovich. The measure of who you are is how you react to something that doesn't go your way. Man, I think that's a great quote. I think it's true that it's a measure of who you are, and I'll let you guys share your take on that. I just want to say that it also is the difference oftentimes between winning and losing. When you're in a match and your game plan is to take the guy down and work from the top, and he comes in with a blast double leg and puts you on your back, that did not go your way. And how you react to that is probably going to be the difference between whether or not you win that match. What do you guys think?
Same thing in basketball. The refs are never going to be perfect. Same thing in jiu-jitsu. They're going to miss stuff. And, they could miss a charging call that, puts the other team up by 2. They could miss a reap that you would have won by DQ. But you have to go on. Life's not fair. Stuff is going to happen. And you can sit there and complain about it. You can get in a bad mood and not perform to the level that you should. Or you can just, give it everything you've got. I'm now into some adversity. I'm going to find a way to climb this mountain and come out on top. So I love this quote, and I think it's something that is going to be very helpful if you react the right way in life, on the mat, on the basketball court, in the firehouse, anywhere you're at. It's definitely going to help you out.
Yeah, and
if you react positively.
Yeah, this quote, the way you explained it, Joe, I really like that. How do you react? How do you react when things don't go your way? And you're going to see this in the interview with Lachlan. He lost his match in his weight class, and he put his name in the hat to do absolute. And he was really hoping not to get one of these giant monsters. He wanted a match that was a little bit closer to his weight class, obviously. That's what any of us would hope for in our first match of absolute. No, didn't go his way. He got not just the person from the heaviest weight class, but the person that won that division in his opening round at the absolute division. Man, you couldn't ask for like a worse matchup. Like statistically, you would say who would be the worst matchup? Well, probably the person that won the heaviest division. Boom. And that's who we got first. And didn't go. The brackets didn't go his way, but they sure did ultimately. He approached it with the attitude of, I'm going to get out there and do my game. If I could get some leg entanglements and get some shots at him, I think I have a good chance. That's exactly what he did, and he did that 3 different times during the course of the absolute division. And he not only has an amazing experience, medaling at ADCC, but he's got one of the coolest stories coming out of this year's ADCC. I was there in the audience. That was the loudest time that it was never as louder when he tapped out those 3 guys from the heavyweight division. Each time it got louder, it seemed like the crowd was just more supportive and everything. Like, that was awesome. And he could have mentally shut down before that match even started. Like, I wouldn't fault him for that. That's the thing. Like, look across the mat. Here you are. I don't know what maybe 170 pounds, and there's a guy who's 240, and this is for ADCC, history. Like, this guy's gonna come over here and murder me. How you approach this with your attitude, and how he approached it was perfect, and put him in the history books. So yeah, and I'm going to try to fish out some more Gregg Popovich quotes for the next coming weeks because legendary coach, and I think that here in the jiu-jitsu world, we could, there's a lot to learn from other sports, and pulling in information from other coaches like this one has a lot of value.
The crazy thing is, we've talked about Gregg Popovich on here 3 or 4 times. He's probably like Googling his name to see what comes up. And it's like it used to be Gregg Popovich basketball. Now it's popping up Gregg Popovich BJJ. And he's like, what the heck is BJJ? And he's starting to Google that. So now he's probably over there talking to his team. And he's like, hey, man, I got a great quote here from Lachlan Giles. And, telling his team about some jiu-jitsu quotes. So who knows? Maybe we've started a revolution.
We've started something, Gary. But
I don't know about a revolution.
If you've just started jiu-jitsu, we do have an audiobook for you. Gary, what is this audiobook?
We have an audiobook by the one, the only, Byron Jabara. Actually, 2 audiobooks. You've got an audiobook, 6 Games for BJJ, and your first year of BJJ. And I'm going to talk about the first year of BJJ because you talk about if you just started. Our goal in this podcast, besides having fun, is to grow jiu-jitsu. And the way to grow jiu-jitsu is to get more people training and keep these people training. And you always hear about people dropping out of jiu-jitsu early. And, I know that was one of the goals of when Byron created this audio book. And it's basically 2.5 hours long. It's going to walk you through that first year, the pitfalls you're going to hit, the barriers that are going to come up, and just very helpful information, like finding the right school, which I think is very important. Some smaller cities, smaller towns may only have one place to train. But if you do live in a bigger area, live in a jiu-jitsu hotbed, you have a ton of different options. And it's important to find the gym that fits best for you instead of just taking the first gym that you walk into. So he's going to talk about that. And, another big thing is we hear it all the time, but, just the benefits of jiu-jitsu. And it's kind of neat to, I guarantee you got somebody in your gym because I know numerous people, but, started jiu-jitsu, lost a whole bunch of weight, got more flexible, got better shape, and now they're not on blood pressure medicine anymore or, some medicine they are not on anymore. But, there's a ton of benefits of jiu-jitsu that are not only going to make you better at jiu-jitsu, it's going to, make your life better. So check it out. We have a link to it in the shop, the BjjBrick shop. You can get either one of those audiobooks there, along with a couple other things. So, great job, Byron.
Well, thanks, Gary. And I want to bring you guys the off-the-mat lesson this week and throw it out to see what you guys think. I had an interesting week. I took a 4-day class called Instructor's Course, and it's done by the local sheriff's office here in this county, but it's a state program that they do a couple times a year, and it's basically for law enforcement. And if you want to become an instructor, it's an instructor development course. If you want to become an instructor, that you need to take this class first, and it teaches you kind of how to teaches you about adult learning, teaches you about dealing with trouble students like Gary and people that sit in the back of the classroom and cause trouble. And and those, everything. It teaches you how to use PowerPoint effectively and all this stuff. And, yes.
I hate to interrupt here, but why are you taking a law enforcement instructor class? You are a firefighter. That became the issue.
So I actually, this is a 4-day course. I had to work a couple of these days, so I got some time off of work to do this class as well. But I was invited to take the class, and okay. It was kind of a unique situation because I have such connections with local law enforcement and getting on the mats with those guys and helping develop their ground fighting abilities and their defensive tactics skills. And it was kind of a win-win for both of us, for both groups. If I'm going to be helping instruct law enforcement, I should probably go through this instructor development course and that sort of thing. So I'm in this class, and there's people that work in prison, like that kind of, guard the prison. There's people that are, beat cops. There's people that are, all over the state, small town police officers and highway patrol. Like I don't know, a lot of different bureaus and all this. I'm the only one that's from fire. So
did they make fun of you?
Did they make fun of me, Gary? That was like the main thing. That if you want to make a joke, crack it at me. And that's perfectly fine. I sat in the back, or I guess I was sitting, it was a science scene, but I was towards the back, and I smiled and I laughed. Some of the jokes are funny, and kind of take the punishment as I get it. And there was a lot of presenting in the class, so you have to get up and demonstrate something or show something or explain something or talk about yourself to help get you used to teaching a class. And every time I go up there, I'd go up there, start with a joke, and then do my thing, and just the whole it felt playful to me, like when they were teasing me and making fun of me. That was pretty playful. And I got a couple of guys came up to me and was like, man, after like day 3, man, I gotta hand it to you. When they're hammering on you, you're just smiling and having a good time. And I didn't even consider any other option. If a joke's funny about me, I'm good with that. That's good. If it's not funny, well, you had a dumb joke or whatever. But to take those that little bit of teasing or whatever with a smile and to throw a little bit back or whatever, that's how you play that game. And I was in a room with 25 to 30 police officers or law enforcement officers, often picking on me as the only one. But it was fun, and I'm in there swinging back with what I've got, and some of them were just shocked that I didn't get upset ever or care. And it's just like, no, you come in there and have fun. Same thing on jiu-jitsu. Like, if you think about how tough you are as a person, most of your friends choke you or attack you or do that's an unusual trait. So when you go into a room that maybe seemed as kind of hostile, maybe not everybody's on your same page or whatever, but we're all on the same page on this. I mean, we're for public service. But when people are picking on you, just remember, for fun, you're going to go and get choked. So you're tougher than you think you are. And just to end this, last day, I brought donuts for the class. They were one guy's like, "Man, sweet donuts," and the other guy's like, "He's making fun of us." But they were good, and everybody enjoyed
awesome.
them. So, yeah,
Byron got the last laugh.
Well, they all got to have donuts too, so they enjoyed them because they are quite fond of donuts. I heard you guys liked. I don't know what you guys like, but I hear this is what you do. Just approach something kind of odd or something unique with a good attitude, and everybody we all ended it as friends, like obviously, but some of them were surprised and really impressed with how that was done. But there's no other way to do it. Have fun,
Byron. Though that goes back to the quote. Gregg Popovich's measure who you are is how you react to something that doesn't go your way, and here. You're in a class with 25 police officers, and they're making fun of you constantly. Everything's not really going your way, but you impressed a lot of those guys by your calmness, by your going along with it instead of getting mad. You could have got mad and stormed out and not brought donuts, and if you wouldn't have been as popular as you were.
And I got a couple of them thinking about becoming a firefighter. That's real.
I got a little quick story about Byron becoming a firefighter. That we would train with a bunch of police officers and a bunch of firefighters, and that's kind of how Byron, got some connections before Byron was a firefighter. But I remember when he was talking about becoming a firefighter, the police officers were all trying to get Byron to become a police officer, and the firefighters were all trying to get Byron to become a firefighter. So they were all pulling, him back and forth, wanting him on their side. And now I realize, now that Byron's become a firefighter, all the firefighters are now trying to get him to become a police officer.
Yeah, they're pushing me into these police classes to get me out of
yeah. That's why they sent him to the class.
Oh, man. Yep.
How times have changed.
Joe alluded to it, that you talked about Lachlan, and how much you've learned from him, Gary. Say that on the air. How have you? He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a
YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is incredible. It's Absolute MMA St. Kilda, and the way I found it is, I talked that I'm a Kimura guy, and man, he blew me away. He's got a half guard Kimura video, and I saw it a couple years ago, and I've added the whole thing to my game. I spent probably a year working, everything he has on there. But, so every time I'm just looking for something new, I go to his YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is insane. what I like about him is, first of all, how calm he is, just the way he talks. It's easy to follow along. I've never a guy who says, hey, this is a guy I want to train with. But after watching his stuff, that's the guy, like, I guess a bucket list maybe to go to Australia and train with him sometime. He just seems like the most welcoming, most incredible instructor. But everything he does, he really goes in depth. And a guy that doesn't pick stuff up quickly like I do, a guy, I'm a slow learner. I have to see stuff over and over, and I have to know the background of stuff. Just the way he teaches, just really just works great for me. But that his stuff he shares on YouTube is absolutely phenomenal. It's so check his YouTube page out, and you guys will be thinking I'm the best person ever for telling you about this if you haven't already seen it.
Well, I just subscribed, so thank you, Gary.
Yep.
Yeah, and then also he's got some DVDs out. BJJ Fanatics has a bunch of stuff with him, and you can't go wrong. Like I said, the way he teaches is just incredible. Yeah, and his newest one is on his 50-50 leg locks, and man, what a guy to share this knowledge, because he definitely displayed it.
Yep. Hey, speaking before you start the interview, you're talking about his BJJ Fanatics 50-50 leg locks. The crazy thing is, right before we went on air, I'm pulling up Byron's show notes that came to me here this morning. And right as I'm reading the show notes, I get an email from info@BJJ Fanatics, and it's talking about our brand new product, Leg Lock Anthology by Lachlan Giles. So you definitely have to check that out too. But he's got a bunch of stuff there on BJJ Fanatics that will definitely take your game to a different level.
All right, check that out. Here's an interview with Lachlan.
He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
When he is training and nature calls, a horse comes to see him. If you take his back, you might notice him holding up a little rearview mirror. Objects in his mirror are just as close as they appear. He has never needed to remove clothing just to make weight, but he does anyway.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Lachlan Giles back to the BjjBrick Podcast. Lachlan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I'm excited to have you. We've got a lot to talk about. Last time we talked, I really enjoyed talking about some of your coaching methods and some of that. But we do have some things that have changed since then, as far as what you've been doing on the mats. But if somebody hasn't heard of you yet, maybe they didn't even watch ADCC. Do you give us a little introduction, kind of where you're training and what you're up to?
Yeah. So I've been training for 17 years now, jiu-jitsu. I train out of Melbourne, Australia. I'm basically based here. I don't do any of my training camps really overseas. I have done that before in the past, just before some major comps. But so I had my black belt for 7 years, been competing a lot every year, and happened to have a really good performance this year at ADCC 2019. So yeah, I was very happy with that.
Yeah, I think everybody was happy with that, and maybe not a few other competitors, but being there in the building as well during some of your performances, we'll get to that for sure. It was the loudest point in time, I think, during the whole event. Several of the loudest points were owned by you. I guess let's just get right to that. So, what weight class are you in?
77 kilos.
Okay,
yeah.
And you got, how did you won the qualifier for that, and you got into that? Is that correct?
Yeah. So it was an interesting lead up to the ADCC trials. Actually, normally we have 2 Asia Oceania trials, so you have 2 chances to get into ADCC. And what happened was the first one was in Kazakhstan, actually, and we flew there. Well, actually, the day before we flew there, we got this. It got announced that those trials had been cancelled, which was pretty. We didn't know what to do. We were like, well, we're leaving tomorrow. Like, is this definitely cancelled or not? Like, it's kind of like, I think it was a Facebook post or something had come up saying it was cancelled, and we ended up flying there anyway. And they ran a tournament, but it wasn't actually a trials for ADCC. So then I had to. So basically, we had one chance to get in, which was the Asia trials, and obviously, it's something I've been preparing for a while. And just like in the main event, when you got one chance, like one mistake can mess you up. So I was pretty, nervous leading into the trials themselves, and they were in Japan. I managed to win the trials there, so that got me my ticket to ADCC.
And so, who did you get your first round?
In the trials, or
no? I'm sorry, of opening ADCC in Anaheim.
Yeah, in my weight division.
Yeah.
So in 77 kilos, I had Lucas Lepri first round, and that was I lost that match. I actually thought it would potentially be a good matchup for me. Obviously, I mean, it's hard to say that when you've got potentially the greatest lightweight of all time standing across from you. But I was pretty confident that he's not working his leg lock defense. I think his strategy was to stay away from, keep his legs out and try and play the more IBJJF style game. So it was I thought, geez, if I can get to his legs, I'm going to have a good chance at this. But I didn't. He was very, very aware of his inside positioning with his legs and constantly pummeling. I had a few nice attempts, but he eventually got in with a kneecap pass. I think I got, as one, because he's very, very good, and two, I think I got a bit too eager to try to get to his legs that I left an opening for an underhook, and he came in with a knee cut, and that was it was pretty bad news after that. He took my back, and I couldn't escape.
Yeah, but it was a close match the entire time, but I think you said
it was quite good up until the knee cut, and then it was really bad. Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah. And there's some things I would do differently if I had to. Like I think from my perspective, I probably tried to play a little too much from reverse De La Riva instead of you saw my De La Riva game more in the open weight, and I was trying to play from reverse De La Riva. I have like a bunch of entries from there, from reverse De La Riva as well as De La Riva. And I was trying to play reverse De La Riva, but I think that's probably a little too close to Lucas's best thing, which is his kneecap pass. So I think that's probably where one mistake I try to put an extra layer in by playing De La Riva first.
Okay, so that was the first day for competing there, and it's like many people experience in many tournaments. Half the people lose the first match. That couldn't. I think you talked to somebody and you said that you weren't real happy with your performance. You've definitely trained hard for this event, and to get on the mat and lose your first match. That's
yeah.
How did that sit with you? How did that feel? I mean, you were definitely competitive in there against a very amazing competitor, but
yeah. I mean, I was very disappointed. Obviously, it's pretty. I mean, it really sucks. The thing is, like, I mean, there'd be so many stories just like that, and in the tournament of people who had a lot of potential to do really well, and then they didn't get a chance to do that on the second day. I was lucky that I had my performance on the second day, but that's. Like I knew in the gym I'd been training really well, and you've got like the people that you roll with, there's people that you roll with, and you can kind of tell how you're going. And I feel like just in the last 6 months, my game had gone up heaps. Just I'd improved a lot, and I was really looking forward to showing that, and then to have that loss, and then realize like, okay, now it's 2 years till I get another chance at ADCC, and I'm 33 years old now, so that makes me 35. Like, I know it's not as much as I love competing, but like it is actually not like training for competition at that intensity is not a good long-term thing for your body. Now, I think you can do like jiu-jitsu quite healthily by training at a much more reasonable training load, but when you're trying to push your body to be ready for competition, it's usually not a long-term healthy thing. So I was thinking, geez, at 35, am I gonna be slowing down? Do I do it? Do I want to push myself for that? And so yeah, it was a pretty rough thing to go through, but yeah, so that kind of motivated me, I think, to give it another go in the open weight and see if I could show something that I'd been working on.
Yeah. Yeah, that hard training, hard on your body, that's the main reason why I'm not doing ADCC. That and the lack of skill and ability.
That's right. I mean, yeah, it's
an interesting way to think of it. When you've already done all that hard work and all that training, you're in theory, like, you're peak performing in these few days that you've kind of toned everything up to be, hey, might as well do it. You didn't have to do a whole nother set of training, like a camp, in order to get ready for the absolute. You just, I'm already ready for it, as ready as I'm going to be. Let's go ahead and do this. Yeah. And I was, so when they run the tournament, and then they pause everything for, it seemed like an hour, maybe 45 minutes to make the bracket for the absolute division. And I walked back to the warm-up area, to the mats there. I got like a little pass. I can get back there and see what's happening. And it was interesting because a lot of people, it seemed like they were looking for people to do it, where my impression was, if you get bronze, silver, or gold, you can do it. And then maybe they'll let a few in that didn't place that way. But they were asking people, like, hey, you want to do it? And people were like really on the fence about it and really didn't... like a lot of hesitation, it seemed like. How was that? Did they approach you with this, or how did that go?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I actually don't know what their thought process is. I assume that they would first make sure they have all the top seeds in the bracket, or at least, like, it's obviously optional. Some people don't want to.
Yeah,
they've done their weight division and they don't want to do the open weight, and that's fine. But I assume they want to make sure there's as many good people in it as possible. And I think they like to throw a few wild cards in as well, to see some matchups like that, like, for example, it was there was also, I know Craig wasn't doing it, but there was, another guy from Absolute where I trained, Ben. He was in the 99 kilo division. He put his name down, but they didn't, select him, and they selected me at 77 kilos. So they must have, maybe, I don't know, maybe they thought my leg lock game might be interesting to see amongst the big guys, or I'm not sure the process, but yeah, so I managed to get in there, which was ended up being really good.
Yeah, it was just interesting for me to be back there and to see some of the athletes turn it down or have a big, like, should I do it? Coach, should I do it or should I not? Like, I would think if given the opportunity. Some of the guys I was listening debate this were really on the fence about it. Like, it seems like it would be like, yes. But you wouldn't expect somebody coming from one of the lighter 77 or 66 to just jump on that opportunity. And
to be honest, I normally wouldn't. I've only ever competed open weight in Australia. I've actually always done quite well in the open. I don't know why. Like, when I go against larger opponents, it's always been. I've always put on a pretty good performance in the past. The only international open weight time I fought someone heavier was like a super fight against Haisam Rida, who's from Japan. He's the guy that we fought on Quintet. But yeah, I've always actually avoided the open weight because I kind of thought it was too high likely, like especially internationally, where you're going to have these really athletic competitors. I always thought it was maybe a bit too high chance of getting injured, but I was there and I was frustrated. I felt like I'd been training good, and on top of that, Mo, the organizer, he told me the night before, he's like, oh, if you go in the open weight, there's more chance they'll consider you for an invite next time. So some people get invited to ADCC, obviously, and some people have to, and so otherwise you got to go through the trials. And I was like, oh, if there's a chance it saves me having to do the trials again, then I'll give it a go.
Would the invite be before the trials, though?
Some people get invited before or after.
Yeah.
I think I might have secured an invite. I'm not really sure, but I think
they'll want you back there. I think that's but a lot of people get invited. I don't know how many get invited before the trials. I think maybe if you medal or something like that, which you did, they would likely to get that. But a lot of times people, somebody drops out and then they invite somebody that just kind of, they have amazing brackets, and the people that they are inviting at the last minute are like, oh, really? And people just say yes, But, okay, so you said yes to the absolute division, which is a little uncharacteristic for you, is kind of how you're describing that. And, if you look at the division and you say, okay, who has the toughest first match, maybe you would look at the heavyweight person, and maybe you look at the person who won the heavyweight division. And like, that's probably the worst match of anybody to have to start with. And that's who you got.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny, the night before, speaking to Mo, because he was organizing the event, or helping and organize the event, and he said, do you want to do the open weight? We were talking about that invite. I said, yeah, but can you not give me, I said, all right, I'll probably do it, but can you not give me someone like BjjBrick? That's what I said, because I was like, I don't want to get injured. So he gives me Kaynan, which is probably just as bad. Yeah. So I think when I saw that bracket come out, I was like, okay. All right, here we go. Yeah. And
it's kind of just odd seeing somebody like your size and build, and then somebody like him across the mat from you there. And what was that like, just the before the match? Like, what was the self-talk? What was your thoughts before that even started?
Well, I knew, like, I knew I wasn't going to, sweep, pass his guard, take his back, and choke him and win that way. I figured I've been working my wrestling a lot. Like, I didn't get to use it at all at the tournament, but I'd actually, like, I think I trained more wrestling than jiu-jitsu in the past 2 years, actually. So I was confident in my wrestling, but not against. I think, like, when there's a 22 kilo or over 20. I don't actually know what the weight difference was, but when it's that big of a weight difference, I think it's pretty hard to out wrestle someone. So I knew that if my best chance is going to be to try and get to the legs. So that was my game plan, and it happened to work.
Yeah. So the weight difference is about 50 pounds, and I don't know how heavy he actually was. He was over 99.
He was over 99, so yeah, it's hard to know what he actually weighed. But
so you knew a lot of ways that you weren't going to win. Like, if you like watching the heavyweights compete, a lot of their matches are standing, trying to get either points for a takedown or just be on top, and that was a lot of heavyweight matches, and that didn't happen at all in your match. You didn't play that. You're like, I'm not playing that game. That would.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I just don't think I would. I'd be able to win in that sort of match. I feel like strength matters more.
Yeah.
In stand up than it does potentially from guard.
And so what? It was a heel hook. It's from 50-50.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you describe how you get to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, I sort of talked through the first match. Yeah, that match. I know so I think in the warm up area I saw Kaynan warming up, and he was kind of stepping into De La Riva, and he kind of works. He actually is somewhat of a little guy's game. Like, he kind of goes in De La Riva. If you invert, he'll often use crab ride and work towards the back, which is obviously a very effective game throughout different weight divisions. Interesting to see someone at the heavyweight doing that same game. But just I saw the way he was entering it, just like as he was warming up. I saw how he was stepping in for his guard passes. I'm like, all right, that gives me like a chance to play my De La Riva game. Like, if I can get there, I'm gonna have a chance at my entry. Will it work? I don't know. And so that's kind of what happened. He stepped in. I went underhook De La Riva. He stacked me pretty good, and then went for crab ride. He got actually, I think, Kaynan did very well. He almost got my back at the start. It was one of those things where, like, I get a grip on the leg, and they'll either often get my back or I get attached to the leg. Like, with the way he did this crab ride thing, I've got people at the gym who do that same move that Kaynan was doing. So it wasn't unexpected for me, but it's probably actually one of the best counters to the system that I play. As in, like, I was quite aware of it. It can end up bad for me if I don't put a bunch of blocks in. And he got quite close to my grip slipping on his leg, but I managed to kind of recover from that and into the leg entanglement, but he escaped from that. I think I had another attempt I got into 50-50 at some point when he was standing, and he managed to slip from that. And then the next time I got that same De La Riva, and I call it modified or a shallow K-guard entry. And that time I managed to secure the heel hook. So he kind of, as I entered that time, he ended up like sitting back and trying to scoot back, pummeling his leg in. And I sort of actually caught this is something I do that's a little different with my leg locks, but I often will try to catch the heel first and then catch the knee line. And that's something that happened with Kaynan. And what I like about that style is a lot of people don't expect it. They feel like they're safe because their knee is free. And then once I catch the heel, it's just one step away from being on. So if you see that, if you watch that match, his knee line was free. I did this little thing I call the elbow hop, and I dug the heel, connected my hands, and then as soon as my leg shoots over, I've got the knee line and I'm bridging into the heel hook. So he obviously was pretty happy with that performance.
So it was he probably felt a little safer than he actually was because he felt his knee was free.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly right. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I think the positioning I'm using is for these sort of setups is quite sound anyway. So obviously, in training, people can know exactly what I'm doing, and I'll often still get it just because I'm controlling. I suppose like what is commonly taught is to try and control the knee or the hip line, and then you separate the legs and you dig the heel. I'm essentially controlling them by like below the knee, so I'll have pressure in around the shin and the ankle, which prevents them scooting back, and it can often give me a chance to dig the heel. And then once you get the heel hook grip, that's actually a grip in a certain way that prevents them from fleeing. And when they can't flee, then basically I can start opening my legs and shooting my legs in to catch the knee line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is, and I'm excited you're coming out with a DVD, but by the time this releases, it'll be out. I'm excited to see it. Kind of explaining this exact process. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, do you want me to talk about the instruction?
Yeah.
So I've got, I put it in layers, right? So the way I structured it was, and I think I go into a lot of things that I don't know have been touched on before, like how to what my approach is when I don't have the knee line, like how am I trying to dig the heel and so on, because I kind of have a system from there. But I essentially kind of go through the main concepts and general leg locking concepts, not even specific to 50-50, just like what's important when you want to get a leg lock. How do you apply a heel hook? What are the main counters to the heel hook, and what are the main ways that we prevent them from being able to counter the heel hook? So then I go into 50-50. So kind of my strategy when we're in the 50-50. Another position I call outside Senkaku, which is I basically consider it an upgrade from 50-50. I just put a video out on this very recently, but it's essentially I've got like 50-50. Potentially your opponent can attack you, although if you're better at it than them, then that's unlikely to occur. And whereas when we get to this outside Senkaku, you're basically completely safe from their attacks, and you've still got the same ability to attack them. So it's an improvement in the position. After that, I then go through like what do you do when you've kind of lost the knee line? How do we start trying to dig the heel and recover? So that some of those things from there. What do you do when someone's standing? What do you do when you're on top? And then some other sweeping and attacking options, sweeps and passes out of the 50-50 as well. I go through how to deal with the other leg locking positions. So obviously my focus is on 50-50 and outside Senkaku. That's pretty much all I look for these days. Obviously if I land in the saddle, I'll attack from there, but I will, my entries and everything, I want to get to 50-50 or outside Senkaku. I find that for me works a lot better. And you'll probably, when you see the instructional, you'll see why that is the case. After that, I go through how to counter the other leg locking styles, because obviously if you're trying to play the leg game and they're trying to play the leg game, then you want to make sure that you can force your game to win. And then I go into entries, so a bunch of different entries to the position. So you basically mostly saw my De La Riva and K-guard entries. I also do from reverse De La Riva, and you can use inside positioning to get to 50-50 as well. So butterfly and single X and so on is also another way to get there. So it's pretty comprehensive. It's very comprehensive. It's a bit over 12. It's a bit over 10 hours footage for this instructional. So
wow.
Yeah, I suppose like when you've got such a large amount of footage, it's really important that it's well structured. So I think that's like I want to make that point. It's actually because it's 10 hours of footage that's kind of just random, like is useless. But I structure it very well. It's very easy to navigate, and when you're looking for a technique or you've got a particular problem, it should be very easy to locate exactly what you're looking for without kind of having to go through hours of footage to find it.
Yeah, that's you. So I'm excited to see this one. I'm going to see it as soon as it comes out, I hope. But the body lock pass DVD that you have with BJJ Fanatics, and that's where this one's coming out through as well. But you do I like your teaching style a lot.
Thank you.
Great at showing the technique and explaining what's happening. And then, like, sometimes you watch an instructional DVD and they just show you how great the technique is. But it didn't take you that long in the body lock style. It's like, here's what they're going to do, and here's what you need to be ready for. Like they might be able to sweep you this way, and oh, okay. So like, I think that some instructors would just say, here's how you do it. There you go. And it like, this is a great pass to do, and it is a great pass. I saw the body lock pass a ton at ADCC. So that was also motivating to get, onto that one and to learn the details behind that. But you really show both sides. You need to be thinking about what your opponent is trying to do and how to react to that. Yeah. You gave some great training tips about, what's giving you trouble and how to adjust, and how to just bring that into like a learning style of rolling on the mats. And I'm excited for this next one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's how I think you should learn jiu-jitsu anyway. I basically try to make the instructionals work in the same way that you should learn jiu-jitsu. Like you've got a move that you're trying, which I actually label in my instructionals. I'll often label it as a primary attack. That's kind of
okay.
So it's be labeled as primary attack. So okay, that's the one I should look for first. When I get to this position, I want to do this, and then of course when you go to do that, there's obviously, hopefully it works, but there's a lot of time people are going to start to work out solutions and problems to try to deal with that. And then based off that, like I've got a bunch of very common, or basically anything that I feel is common, like ways that people defend, I will have that, like how do you deal with these particular problems? For example, with the body lock, like we're going for our body lock, there's the way we do it, and then there's like, what do you do if they're pushing on your leg? At a certain stage, we've got the stages of the pass, and at each stage there's different problems. So what do you do if they push on your leg, if they push your head, if they go for the omoplata, if they go for a guillotine? Like how are we defending and preventing these things from occurring during the way? So, yeah.
Wow. So I kind of derailed us. You're talking about your match with Kaynan. So one thing as a spectator, I didn't have a bracket. I didn't know how this was lined up. I saw you down there with Kaynan. I'm like, man, he got a tough draw on that one. Wonder who he gets next. Not an easy next match either, as far as ability. There's no easy match to the ADCC, but another person from the over 99 weight class, right? With Patrick.
Yes.
Could you walk us through that match a little bit?
Yeah. So, I should say for this one, he was he'd just had a pretty tough match with Mike Perez that he won. So I think like someone said, "Oh, you're fighting the winner of these guys," as they were competing, and then like they finished that match. I think it was a real hard wrestling match, and I saw afterwards Patrick was like lying on the ground, trying to recover. I'm like, "Oh, this is good. He's tired." That's excellent. But I think they gave us like 15 minutes, which is, I know as a competitor, it's enough to get some wind back, but you still, if you're that tired, especially as a heavyweight, you're going to still be feeling the effects of that match. So I think you probably see that if you watch the match, he was a little bit more passive at the start. I think he was trying to pick his times to attack. And I think he came in a lot of the time. He was on his knees. Occasionally would stand up. But I think he knew my plan was to get to the leg. So I had a few nice entries that just as I was trying to catch, he managed to like kind of escape and back away. And then I think he got a passivity warning from the ref because he was kind of moving away from the match a little bit. And after that, when he got that passivity warning, I think I was playing De La Riva and I went to spin under and he went to sit back for my leg. And as he went to sit for my leg, I managed to pummel my own leg through and pull us through into 50-50. And then he went to turn out of the 50-50 and I ended up in this position, which is the same position I got Ali from, where we're both facing downwards and I'm able to lever the foot up and dig the heel from there. And once we had that, obviously I managed to get the finish. So I was like, wow, I'm in the semi-final of I'm now into the semi-final of ADCC openweight. This is ridiculous. That was what I was thinking to myself.
Wow. And an amazing path to get there. So then next up you have Gordon Ryan. What were your thoughts going into that?
Similar, I thought if I, obviously he's more well versed in the leg lock game, but I thought that was still my best chance to catch him. I mean, I didn't think I was going to pass his guard and choke him. Or take him. I thought maybe we could. I don't know. Yeah, he's obviously he's shown he's very, very good everywhere. I feel like he's very well rounded. But the area I could have the best chance would be with the legs. So that was my plan. And
that's, I mean, just for everybody out there, figure out what part of your game looks the best against their game, and just try to get to that part of your game. And like you were saying, if you can get there, you feel good. That there's lots of, like, you couldn't have wrestled the first two guys and probably won. I don't know how well you're wrestling, but that's an exhausting game against two people who are like 50 pounds heavier than you. If you let's just say you did that in the first round and won, you would have been exhausted.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing your game is a big deal, and knowing how it's going to match up against your competitors is also a big part of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's just being so I think it's definitely worth taking the time to whatever your game is, like, really try to become an expert at that. You want to go. Okay, no matter who it is, like, I'm going to be confident to play this game.
Yeah, and just talking with you now, you've spoken a lot about getting to the game is a big deal, and that's why I'm excited about the DVD as well. Finishing from there is one thing, but you got to get there, and that's if the best part of my game is mount, I'm going to be in a world of trouble if I can't pass your guard or if I can't sweep you. Like, it's not going to exist.
Yeah.
So getting there is a big deal.
Are very, very, very important, obviously. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think, like, especially with the leg, you got to be very good at your entries. I kind of feel like what happens a lot of the time in my leg locks is often I don't know what way people are going to defend when I first enter. But you start to kind of read their patterns and you start to anticipate where they're going to go, and you can then catch them. Often sometimes you get into the legs and then, like, you're trying to do what you're expecting them to do, but they go a way you don't expect. Like, they turn a direction or use an escape that you weren't expecting them to do, and you'll miss it. But then once I see, okay, they like to, like, pummel their foot in and try and kick free, or they like to turn to escape, or they like to stand up or whatever. Once I know that, it starts to become a bit intuitive, like when you're playing the leg lock game enough. But once I can anticipate the direction they're going to go, I have a much bigger chance to catch them the second or third time I get in. So having good entries will give me, multiple attempts at trying to catch it. And I think even in those matches, like, I think most of the matches I had, like, that actually, I think in the open weight, like, it was probably like my second or third attempt at actually catching from a leg entanglement where I actually got it. So
It was almost like you were gathering information how they're going to react, and so that the next time, if they do react the same way, you're there for it, and you're getting that step ahead of them. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's not always. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just like sitting there in my head, like calculating this exactly. Like obviously, a lot of it becomes almost intuitive once you're playing the game enough. You just start to like just in my head, I'm like, okay, they're going to turn that way, and I'm already readying myself for the way they're going to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of like we have certain training partners. Some react reliably the same way all the time. And if you switched out somebody's body with somebody else, they would surprise me terribly, and I wouldn't I wouldn't react right. But if I know what you're going to bring me, or how you're going to react to my offense, it's really helpful. So Gordon Ryan, he did the same thing pretty much to everybody. He's able to get back on pretty much everybody he rolled with and get a rear naked choke, and so that puts you in the bronze medal match with Mahamed Aly, another over 99 weight class, as big as they get. How was that match?
Yeah, it was obviously it was pretty quick in the end. It was pretty daunting standing across from him. He's a big guy. He kind of stepped up on his. I remember from his posture, I was like, oh, he's giving me a little window to invert under to the leg. So I think I went for his left leg first, but he managed to block that, and then I think he stood up on his right leg, and then let me get De La Riva, and I did that same De La Riva based entry to get into the 50-50, and we're in that same kind of belly down position. But Ali reacted differently. He sat back on me, which is again, it's something where I think you feel pretty safe, especially if you've never sort of dealt with the way I approached the finishes from there. He would have felt pretty safe, but I have like a little trick where I can kind of use their foot to lever them off me a little bit, and then dig the heel from there. So obviously that was a very surreal experience getting that win, and hearing the crowd was just it was incredible. Yeah. I think honestly at the time I didn't realize I was kind of in my head, I was like, oh yeah, I've had some good wins, it's been a very good performance, but I didn't realize that I was going to be talked about. I didn't realize how impactful I guess it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just anybody from your weight class getting a medal is a big deal, but it would be a little different if you face other people from your weight class, or maybe even one lower, or but no, you hit these guys on your path, and
yeah,
they weren't long matches. I mean, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes at most. I can't remember, but not 5.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think they were all less than 5, except the Gordon one. I think was obviously the one I lost was about 7 or something. But yeah.
So did at any point in time, a lot of from at least my experience, if somebody feels strong, they've also obtained a position to where they're able to really use their strength. Did anybody really feel like, oh man, this guy's way stronger than me, or because you were working your guard, you felt like the strength thing wasn't as big as an issue, or what was that margin like? Yeah,
to be honest, I mean, obviously they're all very strong.
Yeah,
they're a lot stronger than I am. I didn't notice it too much during the matches, to be honest. But probably against once Gordon got his weight on me, he's probably the only one that got a pressure sort of position on me to do that. Obviously, once he got there, it's okay, I'm going to struggle to, obviously potentially probably the best no-gi grappler in the world right now, who's a lot heavier than me. In my half guard with underhooks is once I'm there, it's a very tough position to try to work with. But pretty much, if you watch the matches, I always was working to have the sole of my foot attached somewhere on the bicep or torso. So that's I kind of feel like no matter how strong or heavy someone is, if you've got your foot, that stomping action to keep their weight off you, you're not gonna feel it too much. There's a few times where I was inverted and getting stacked a little bit. But I was still in a position in there where I was able to like frame and pummel my foot in. And once my foot's in, I feel like I can keep him away. So, the other thing is, like in the lead up to this, I was stretching a lot as well. I was doing a lot of stretches. I kind of feel like it's something I don't know why I didn't used to do too much, but my flexibility has improved a lot in the last year because of that. But I do see that as just like it's an advantage everyone should have. And if you're not, it's kind of just laziness to not be flexible, isn't it? Like if you're an elite competitor, there's no downside to doing mobility work and getting more mobile. There's really no downside to that at all. It doesn't make you sore, doesn't take away from the rest of your training. Like I feel like doing weights and strength training actually impacts how much jiu-jitsu I can do, because I get sore, tired, potentially injured from overload. Whereas doing stretches, it's really just like whether you can be bothered or not. as an elite competitor, I think I don't necessarily think the average person is required to do that. But
it would help, and you could do it pretty much anytime you have some free time to, or you could, if you're watching a movie or doing something, Netflix, you could stretch as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So off the mat training, are you doing much like weight training, cardio training, and any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I don't do any. I actually don't do weights.
Okay.
I did, to be honest, or any, like for cardio, I do. The wrestling for me was enough cardio.
Okay.
For my weight, in terms of weights, I did actually, I should say, I in the lead up to ADCC, probably about 3 to 4 months out from ADCC, I was like, I should actually, like I normally don't do strength training, mostly because I don't enjoy it. But 3 to 4 months out, I was like, okay, I should get a bit stronger. And I did about 4 weeks of it, and then I realized I don't enjoy it. And I didn't, this is another thing I had different in my approach, which I actually think helped. But what was happening was I was doing a lot of wrestling, and wrestling's obviously much more physically, like you get much more tired, like, and it's pretty hard on the body as well. And what I was finding was if I'm showing up to wrestling sore and fatigued, I'm performing poorly. Like you do a shot, you like shoot in for the legs and try and finish a double leg or whatever, and you'll put in like, if you put in like 80% effort, it's just not going to work. And then that's like, doesn't reinforce the correct movement. And I actually ended up, in the lead up to this, ended up training less than I normally do, doing less training, but making sure I was feeling good. And I felt like I improved a lot more because of that, like trying to make sure each session I come to, I was excited to train. I think my test was like, when I'm overtraining, I feel like when I walk up the stairs, we have like one set of stairs to the gym, and if I walk up them and I'm like, oh, stairs, like I've got to get up these stairs, then I shouldn't be training. But I mean, I still would, but I'd probably do a lighter session, whereas because it's just stair. Like if sometimes obviously it's not hard, but like it's your body saying like, oh, it doesn't want to like put in the work. Yeah, so I actually trained less, made sure I felt good, and I feel like for something like wrestling, that's really important. Where like the speed and explosiveness required is important. So I felt like if I was adding, especially in wrestling, I had so much to improve technically that in my head focusing my energy on strength training, although it would obviously the stronger and more powerful you are is going to help a lot in something like especially in wrestling, but also in jiu-jitsu. But I kind of felt like the technical improvements I could potentially make from getting more wrestling training and might surpass the improvements I could make from being stronger.
Okay. So let's talk about, I got you a couple more minutes here, but training, you're not training at a huge, gym with 20 world-class champion black belt athletes. Tell me a little bit about your training environment and how you make this work to produce not just yourself, but an amazing group of athletes that go out and compete at a high level.
Yeah, so I mean, so obviously I train at Absolute MMA in Melbourne, Australia. we have a 9:30 a.m. which we call it our pro training class, and so that's where I do my training there. I get about like hour and a half to 2 hours training a day. That might seem like not that much, but that's basically what my body can handle before I start feeling like I'm overtraining. So I'm 33 now. I've been training for 17 years, so probably my capacity for taking on the 6-hour training loads like you hear people doing is just not there. So yeah, I'm doing a little less. But yeah, it's a 9:30 a.m. session. We train for about 2 hours, and that's like we've got a bunch of people who are taking jiu-jitsu pretty seriously. So I definitely got like a solid mat there. We had Kit Dale trains with us, but he's now in LA, so he hasn't been training with us probably the last year or so. And obviously Craig, when he's in Melbourne, will train with us as well, though he's probably spending a bit more time in New York now. But so obviously like there's some people who can really give me a good beating. But also on the mat we had Ben Hodgkinson, who qualified for ADCC. Liv, my wife, qualified for ADCC as well. So we ended up with like a bunch of us really preparing for this, and then there's a whole group of people that were preparing for the ADCC trials as well. So there's definitely enough people who are on the same page and having the same sort of training methodology to give me enough of a challenge in training for sure, and to improve my skills. In the actual training sessions, we do half an hour of drilling. So I guess actually I'll probably talk about this first. Like I've tried to make it so that even though I'm saying I'm training a pretty short amount of time, about 2 hours a day, like every minute of that 2 hours is focused on exactly what I needed to work on to do well at ADCC. So it's all self-directed in some degree. Like although there's a class structure, it's all self-directed. It's 30 minutes of drilling whatever you want, like whatever you're working on. Then we do about 40 minutes of situational training. And then we finish off with about half an hour of rolling and then some stretches to finish off. But even the situational training, it's like I'd basically written out a plan. Like these are the skills that I'm going to fix in this month. I'm going to work on this skill set. I'm going to start from this position here, and then we're going to go. And then when I get out of that position, we're going to reset and go again, and just like until I make improvements in that particular area. And then once I feel like I've done that, whatever my next problem is or the next month, I'd be reevaluating and going through a new plan for that month. So although it's not a particularly large training volume, I think it's like getting the most out of your training.
Yeah. And without putting a ton of miles on your body, you're fine tuning your game. How much, if you had to guess, Lachlan, let's just say out of 10 hours of training, how many hours are working heel hooks or 50-50 or your leg lock game?
Well,
does that occupy like a large chunk of that, or is it just?
Yeah, I mean, I would be I suppose as I said, I trained more wrestling than jiu-jitsu. So I was probably doing 60% wrestling. You just didn't see it in the tournament, but yeah, I've been working that a lot. I actually won the national championships, but Australia's not like a huge wrestling country, but yeah, I was really focusing on wrestling. I was expecting actually that if I wasn't able to get a leg lock, I was probably going to end up in overtime in a wrestling match, but that actually never happened. But yeah, probably. So let's say 60% wrestling. Then there's probably like, probably that was really when I was playing any like jiu-jitsu or rolling engagement was me trying to get to the legs and get a leg lock. That was my plan.
Okay.
If it was going to be a jiu-jitsu match, like if we're going to be fighting for submissions or passes or whatever, then I'm looking to catch the legs. And then if not, it's going to be a wrestling match, and I'm going to try and get the takedown and work from there.
So if you're trying to pass someone's guard, if you're on top in guard, are you trying to pass or attack the leg with the setup of a pass? Like, what's your thought process, or is it just a blend of things?
Okay, so this probably comes down to ADCC strategy.
Okay.
I love guard passing. I think it's probably actually in the last 10 years, I've probably spent more time on my guard passing than any other part of my game, just because it's probably the hardest thing to do in jiu-jitsu is to pass the guard. Like someone who's got a good guard, it's probably the most difficult thing to do. So it's a skill you have to work a lot. I just think like if you look at the stats in jiu-jitsu, you're much more likely to get swept than get a guard pass.
Oh.
Like if especially at a lighter weight division, So ADCC rule set has a little cheat to get around that. In IBJJF, so if you're on top, you're stuck in that game. So
yeah.
If I'm on top in IBJJF, I'm either going to pass or get swept or nothing happens, right? In ADCC, if you go for a submission from on top and then end up on the bottom, there's no points for that. So if you initiate the submission attack and the other person ends up on top, then you don't lose any points. So my strategy was not to try to pass just because of the more I feel like it's more highly likely that you end up getting swept. Whereas if I could sit down for a leg lock, if I get it, awesome. If I don't, I'm on the bottom and I can just play my guard entries, and I haven't lost anything from that. So I was trying to eliminate what I felt like would have been a potential way to lose, which is, even though I like my guard passing, I still feel like just statistically it's less likely to be effective.
Yeah. So in your training for this, you weren't really planning on, like, you weren't developing or fine-tuning your side control attacks or your mount attacks. You weren't planning on that. It's either you go for the legs, like you wouldn't end up in side control in accident. So is that right? You were really focused on a few things and how to get there.
Yeah, I narrowed it down a lot.
Okay.
So I wanted, obviously, like sometimes the best way to get a leg attack is to threaten a pass,
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess like if I threatened the pass and they didn't react, then I would quite happily pass.
Yeah.
But like if their leg comes in front of me, I'm going to take that option. To me, that was for my strategy for this event, that was the way to go. And I'm not. Obviously, this is just for me. This is ADCC strategy, which is quite different to how I would approach an IBJJF tournament.
Yeah. Lachlan, how could somebody keep up with you? I follow you on Instagram, and you post some really fun things on there, and some really insightful comments and that sort of thing. But where's a good place to go to keep up with you?
Yeah, mostly just copy the memes that people make about me and then share them. Gives the illusion that I'm funny, but I'm actually not. So my Instagram is Lachlan Giles. That's pretty easy. And Facebook I'm on as well. Obviously I've got my instructionals through BJJ Fanatics, and I've got some stuff on the Grappler's Guide as well. If you follow me on, and my YouTube channel, Absolute MMA St Kilda. So follow that. I think that's, I put up, usually like, I'll put up one of the classes I teach a week. I'll often film it and put that up on YouTube. So you get to see a pretty broad variety of things that I put up there. So.
Oh, that's great. So you're doing any teaching of seminars, that sort of thing? Can people get a hold of you if they want to bring you out?
Yeah, I've got to work out what I'm doing.
Okay.
I had like so many messages after ADCC, and I needed to be like writing down who was asking for seminars, because I was too busy to actually like respond properly. But so what I'll probably be getting to Europe and the States soon, hopefully before the end of this year. So I might make a post when I know I'm going there and see who's willing to host me, and then when I know where I'm going, I'll let you guys know.
Awesome. I appreciate your time today and sharing some of the story that you had. Any final thoughts or words for the audience?
Thanks for being awesome. Especially the crowd and the messages and the support after the event. It was just amazing to experience that, and it's a really good community. And thanks for all the support.
All right, I want to thank Lachlan for hopping on the show here with me. It was great to have him back on the BjjBrick Podcast. Check out his previous interview with us a while back, and he's a guy all smiles, really amazing at jiu-jitsu, and I do, like Gary was saying earlier, enjoy his coaching style, the way he teaches jiu-jitsu. Watching his instructionals is really a great learning tool. He's one of the people that can not only perform jiu-jitsu at a high level, but also coach it. You know, you could see that with the talent he's developed around him, and he's just an impressive person. We're glad we have him in the sport. We're glad to have him on the episode. Check out his new DVD, the 50-50 anthology, and his other DVDs. He's got a cool one about guard passing with the body lock, which is a great guard pass, and I've been working on that as well. So anyway,
it's funny you say that because I have been working on that also.
Dang it, Gary.
It's funny you say that because I have been working on that also.
Joe, are you serious?
Yeah, for
unbelievable.
I quit.
For an older guy like me, that's just it's gold.
Yeah, and for an older guy like me, that really is gold. But I've been working on that, so that's crazy that all three of us are doing the same thing.
And for us young guys, it's good too. I'm 40.
All right,
spring
there,
chicken. Yeah.
Man, I'd give anything to be 40.
Oh man. Well, you're just a body lock away. Anyway, great stuff by Lachlan, and we do appreciate him sharing his knowledge. I mean, and you can support him by getting his products and also watching him on YouTube. So, yep, do that. Nice guy, great information.
Hey, Byron, you were just talking about great stuff there by Lachlan Giles.
Yes.
We also have a great article by the one, the only, Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
So, Gary, how is your poker face?
Not very good.
He's smiling ear to ear right now.
Yep, that's like when Gary gets that Kimura grip locked on, man. It just grinning from ear to ear. So we've had a couple of articles written by other people that we've covered on tennis, skateboarding, soccer. Did we do tennis? We did skateboarding and soccer. I know that. So kind of thinking outside the box here a little bit. And I got to thinking about how you always hear that poker or that jiu-jitsu is like chess, but it's a lot like poker too. And so I kind of spent some time mulling this over and came up with 5 things that I think the two have in common. And the first one I thought is you got to play the hand you're dealt. I've played a little poker, not a ton. I know that you can draw some cards, you can discard some cards, but you can't make requests. It's not like Go Fish. You get dealt a hand and you just got to make the best of it. And you can look at that on a small scale, like individual matches or stuff, or you could look at it on the big scale. And that's kind of the way I was looking at it. Not all of us start jiu-jitsu when we're 19 and we have, opportunity to go 5 days a week and, a great school in our area. Some of us live in the country and we're training with some guy in his garage. And if that's the hand you're dealt, you make the best of it. Some of us start when we're in our 30s and 40s and we've got kids and grandkids and bad backs and sore hands. And that's the hand you're dealt and you can make the best of it. So that's one thing definitely that I think the two activities have in common.
Yeah, and that will help you, just realizing that will help you, I think, deal with some frustrations. Because none of our bodies behave the way you want them to all the time. And so if you feel like, man, I'm slower than everybody, or I'm whatever. Yes, you could change things, of course. But you know what? If you're starting this and you're Gary or Joe's age, you're probably not going to win adult tournaments, or black belt. Like, what's the hand you're dealt with? Play that hand. That's why we have masters divisions and other things that you could play in the competitive on competitive poker tables. That's a good one, Joe. I think that does help deal with. And if your training partner, like, you start with the same time as an 18-year-old person who is naturally athletic or maybe wrestled, quit comparing yourself to that person all the time. That's just adding frustration. And, maybe you hang with them, maybe you don't. But comparing yourself with other people is like looking at your hand like, I wish I had a different hand.
Yeah, but don't do any good at that point.
Yeah. Your second thing you have here is understand the rules and objectives. And I don't know what, I've seen this before. It's on TV, and I don't know if it was like The Simpsons or some movie or something, what it was. But they're playing poker, and a guy lays down his hand like, read him and weep. And it's like spades and clubs, a mixed bag of those. Like, it's nothing. You don't have anything. Like, dang it! I thought I was trying to get. Black. Yeah, I thought I was trying to get all black cards or all red cards. Like, that's a thing, right? No, it's not a thing. And it just like, what are the rules you're playing with? If you were at ADCC and you racked up a bunch of points before the points segment started, you did nothing. Like, and maybe you did something. Maybe you wore the person down. Maybe you caught it. Obviously, if you submitted them with that good positioning that you had, but you've got to play the rules. With the rules that the game that you're playing, and you got to work those rules. And that's something that we saw a lot more of this ADCC is people being really aware of the rules and not making those mistakes that have been made in the past, as far as getting put in a position where they start giving up negative points, or they do things that are just bad strategy. So very little of that. And you should be thinking the same thing. If you're wanting to compete, you start learning those rules, start learning how to score points, and maybe I pass Joe's guard and he quickly recovers. Like, well, wait, did I get, like, maybe, hey, Joe, did I think I would have scored that or no? Like, not to annoy your teammates, but you have to learn these things. And if Joe was able to square him back and get his guard recovered before I established good, clean side control, I didn't get any points. You need to be able to get that control for a certain amount of time. So
we've all seen guys that they pass the guard and they go right to mount and they go right for an arm lock and they get reversed and they end up with their opponent in their guard. And it all happened so quick. They never solidified the position and got points for that. For the pass, they never solidified the mount and got points for that. And it was a whole lot of work. And in the context of trying to win that match by points, they didn't accomplish anything.
But man, it is cool to do that and end with that arm lock.
If
high
you
risk.
Can finish that arm lock, it's great. But man, if you get reversed, then you did a whole lot of work for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Joe, I like your point 3. Bluffing, and at the poker table, you're trying to create an illusion that something is true. Like you have a great hand, like you said there. But man, jiu-jitsu is all about bluffing. Normally you're 2 or 3 moves ahead of what you're trying to do. You may be grabbing a Kimura grip, but you're trying to get that person to react. And, maybe you're actually looking for the guillotine. As he reacts, you pop back into a guillotine. But, bluffing's huge in poker. Bluffing's huge in jiu-jitsu. I think that's a skill that I don't play poker, but in jiu-jitsu, I didn't have it when I first started. I was just so singular, just looking for one thing, which is normal. I'm just going for the move that's in front of me. But once you start getting a little experience in jiu-jitsu, it's a big bluff game.
Yeah, it makes things easier as well when you're able to bluff or trick your opponent a little bit. I'm working on the Art of War for BJJ, and that's a pretty big concept. If I can get Joe to defend the wrong thing, it makes attacking the thing I'm trying to attack a lot easier, because he's not only not defending it, he's actively doing the wrong thing to defend something. Like, if he's defending a choke and I'm setting up my armbar and he's still worried about his neck, man, he's worried about the wrong thing entirely. He's doing the wrong thing to defend the armbar. That's, trying to trick somebody is a great thing. And you see it in those poker games when somebody thinks they have a good hand or they think they're going to win. That's the one that costs them big. When I've got a decent hand and I feel good about it, I bet more. And that's how you get suckered in. And man, Gary had a great hand. I had a pretty good hand, and I lost because of that. That hurts real bad.
One thing I've noticed when I watch Joe roll, what he's been doing lately, he's really been taking this to heart, poker and jiu-jitsu, and, trying to hide his bluffs. Joe's been rolling with dark sunglasses.
Nice.
So, it's one thing I've noticed he's been doing, and I'm not sure if it's working, but, it would hide his bluff a little bit. They won't be able to read his face and his eyes as much.
One time, Gary,
I never really thought about that. I've actually just been wearing the sunglasses because my future's so bright.
One time I had Joe, and I had his back, had a body lock. It was tight. I was squeezing, and I swear, an ace of clubs fell out of his pant leg.
I don't think that was an ace of clubs, Byron.
He's got cards somewhere in there. Joe writes this really great article, and we take it to this.
Joe, what do you got for point number 4?
He should sing this. So let's hear it, Joe.
Yep.
What?
You got to sing it.
If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
Who had that queued up quickly?
Yeah, you got to know when to hold them, when to fold them, when to walk away, and when to run. Now, I think this point's really key, and it just has to do with reading the table. When you sit down at a poker table, the quicker you learn who's out for blood and who's doesn't know what they're doing and who's a big bluffer, the quicker you figure out that, the better you are. Sometimes you're playing with a table full of sharks that just want every penny you have, and you got to run. But I think that a good skill for a jiu-jitsu player to have, you should get to a point where you can go visit a new gym, and every guy you roll with or girl, within the first few seconds, you should have a clue of what kind of game they're bringing to the table and what things they're trying to do. You know, you look at the grips that they're trying to establish, their posture. There's a lot you can tell about what they're doing, and the sooner you pick all that up, I think the better off you are.
Yeah, that's a good one, Joe. And you can kind of get the feel for things pretty quick, how serious it is, or how good they are, or maybe even what they're aiming to do, provided they're not bluffing or trying to trick you. Gary, I know. So if you guys have ever been to Gary's house, stacks of money all over the place. Which this leads us to point number 5, Gary.
It actually leads us to wonder what he's doing at work.
Well, I just lost my job, and I'll be in the news tomorrow. No, number 5, you never count your money when you're sitting at the table. I like what you said, Joe. Gambling was cutthroat, and if you show all that money, it's a sure way to get your ASS shot. It's the same thing. You're in a match, you're in practice. Don't go crazy when you tap somebody out. Don't go jumping around. This is all about respect. When you're training with somebody, don't have that ego. Don't, peacock, show those feathers. Being humble, will go a long way. It'll help you get better at jiu-jitsu. It'll help you make a lot of friends at jiu-jitsu, who in turn will help you get to that next milestone. Have a healthy ego and be humble at all times.
All right. Ante up, guys.
Yeah, I didn't bring any funds.
I'm folding. Joe
Don't
won.
take no wooden nickels.
Yep.
That's a good one. I mean, that's just common in our culture. If you happen to tap out somebody, don't celebrate. That's
don't
just
put it
rude.
on Facebook.
Don't. But I finally tapped out a black belt today. You're like, you know what?
That's a sure way to get your ass destroyed at the next training session.
Yeah. Well, it's just not being a good training partner either. Like, I guess you could say that if you did that at a tournament. Like, let's just say your first tournament, blue belt, and felt good. I actually got caught a blue belt. Like, that's different. But in a training environment, you want to promote the culture that is a learning culture, and it doesn't help you if you are a blue belt and the black belt is doing nothing but destroy you all the time. Like, that's not a fast way to learn jiu-jitsu. And if if they give you mount to work from, and they're not like handing you submissions, they're working, but they give you the position and you catch them, good job. You got that. And that's the way I am. Like, I'll give people positions a lot. I will fight pretty hard to get out of submissions, but I get caught sometimes. That's just the way jiu-jitsu is. You get caught. But people don't get up and celebrate. It'd be a little bit harder to bring that playful style to the next round if, instead, because I was like, hey, good job, man. That was a tight choke versus, you making a big deal of it. That's just bad. That's just bad taste. Don't do that. Good points, Joe. So,
obrigado, my friend.
Have you your experience level with poker? Do you play with buddies sometimes on the weekend? Do you play on the boat? What's going on? Can't say.
I'm not sure.
Not liberty for tax purposes to say.
I'm not sure how to answer this. It feels like a friendly conversation, but
you're being drug into a path you don't want to go down.
I think I'm being set up for something.
I just don't. I don't even know if I should never play poker with you or what. You've played a few games, okay? A few hands.
Yes.
Okay.
A few hands.
That's fun. I like this. Anytime that somebody can bring in something from the side like this and bring it to jiu-jitsu and some lessons. That's awesome. So
So if anybody out there wants to contribute, we've been on this kick where we're trying to look at other sports and other activities. So if you're out there and you're an avid, a bowler or a rock climber or anything like that, share your thoughts with us and we'll cover it on the air.
Even a kayaker, Gary.
Yeah, kayak.
We had a couple of kayakers on here recently.
That's true.
Gary Hall
being one of them, kind of.
I was bluffing.
Yeah, I put him and Stephen Kesting right there at the top of the kayaker
number one,
list.
Number two. I don't know the order, but they're both very skilled at it.
I kayaked a mile. Stephen Kesting kayaked over 1,000 miles. Yeah, we're in the same category.
Gary, it's the same boat. You're in the same boat.
You did your mile really good, though, Gary. So
yeah,
I had a guide.
Yeah, you guys are in the same boat. And if you look in the article, go check it out. It's on this website called BjjBrick. I'll put a link to the actual article, though, in the show notes. It's toolboxes mentioned. And I saw that. I'm like, oh, he didn't say tool bag. He said toolbox.
Yeah, and yes, I did plagiarize Kenny Rogers a little bit. I think he'll offer me some grace on that. So
hold on, Joe. We have a phone call right now coming in. It looks like it's Kenny Rogers. Hold on, let me hang up on him just so he can. Okay, cool. I hung up on him. We're good.
There we go.
Yeah, we get
back in business.
The phones are just always buzzing off the hook here on Skype. Man, we do. I do want to do something. I want to thank Rollo. He's our newest Patreon supporter. If you enjoy this show, you want to help it out, help it grow and become the best that it can be, and help it be here in the future. One way you can do that is by supporting us on Patreon. Patreon is basically a website that supports content producers like podcasters. So every episode, you pledge a certain amount. You could pledge $1, $2, or $3, or whatever you feel. And at the end of the month, your card is charged that, or your PayPal account, whatever you sign up with, is charged that. So most months there's 4 episodes, sometimes 5, and that's kind of what you're looking at. You could also set a cap to where, hey, I only want to pledge for 3 episodes a month. You could also kind of limit it on that. Anyway, that stuff makes a huge difference. Rollo is our newest Patreon supporter. A very generous donation or pledge from him. Thank you so much. And as Patreon supporters, it'd be smart if I had like tiers. That's what everybody does. I give everybody the same thing. Like you support any amount.
You do have tears most of the time after we get rolling. I see tears coming out of your eyes.
After the podcast, I'm getting teased so much from Gary and Joe. I tear up a little bit as well.
Are you going to bring us donuts?
Byron's like, I'm not crying. My eyes are just sweating. It was a tough roll.
I'm thinking about something real sad right now.
Yeah, your jiu-jitsu game.
Oh, man. Okay, now I'm starting to tear up. Let me finish this, guys. I'm just trying to talk about Patreon. What I'll do is I'll mail out our BjjBrick gi patch. It's 5 inches. That's what she said. Oh man, I'm getting killed over here.
In this case, Byron, I believe you.
Yeah, dang it. Also have a 3-inch sticker. Why are we measuring everything, guys? It's not that important. Man, this is going downhill quick here, guys. No, so we still have a couple of the old gi patches that are the legacy of the old throwback gi patches. So right now, if you sign up on Patreon, I'll still be able to mail you out both the gi patches and the sticker. That's over 10 inches of gi patch.
That's what she said.
You can put that patch anywhere you want, guys. I really get a kick out of it when you guys send me pictures of you guys with the gi patches. Man, that just puts a face to who's supporting us. And they send it through Facebook or email bjjbrick@gmail.com. It's an easy way to get a hold of me anytime, day or night. I only read them at day, but you can send it anytime. Also, our Facebook group, man, we have a private Facebook group. So we have 2 things on Facebook. 3, actually. We all have Facebook pages, individual to our person. And we have a Facebook page for the BjjBrick. And it's fun. Joe posts a lot of good information, sharing fun pictures and quotes and things like that, thoughts as well. And then the private Facebook group is something you have to be invited to. So once you're on Patreon, find me on Facebook, add me, or find us and say, hey, I'm the guy, send me an email, and then I'll add you to the private Facebook group. A little behind-the-scenes chatter, a little bit more harassing of Gary on there with some of our Patreon supporters. They've all picked up the torch of harassment and often run with that.
Yeah, it seems like I'm always the target. I don't understand why.
Just because you're an easy target, Gary. That's all. No offense, but man, you're an easy target.
Darn.
Your looks and the things you do and say, and just the person entirely. But
I just set myself up.
I could continue to list the things, but I feel like I'm kind of being a little bit mean with it.
Well, thank you, Byron.
So I'll stop there before you start to cry as well.
No, my ears don't sweat. My eyes, sorry.
Gary leaks out of a lot of holes, but not his eyes.
I set myself up again.
Joe, you're found in 2 different states. Where could they find you leaking from places?
And you wonder why nobody wants to roll with us, Byron.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I'm south of Houston is where my home is. If you're in the Houston area, hit me up. I also spent a pretty good bit of time, an hour or so away from New Orleans and Louisiana. So if you're in that area, I may be able to find you and train, or I can send you in the right direction if you're looking for a school to train at. So how about you, Byron?
Well, Gary and I are both found in the same town. If you can believe it, this town is big enough for both of us. We just live on opposite sides.
And I did that on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically going to be, the judge was going to come down with that if you didn't do it on your own. So thank you. We're in Wichita, Kansas. It's kind of in the middle of the country. And if you are in Wichita for some reason, whether you live here, you're traveling through, or you're here to train jiu-jitsu, send us a message on Facebook or the email, and we'll try to connect with you and get some mat time with you, my friends. That's always a highlight, of the podcasting game, is to meet you guys, to get some, we do jiu-jitsu, to do that activity we talk about every week with you guys. Man, that is awesome. We also, we do the BjjBrick camp. We get to meet some of you guys then, but anytime you're in Wichita, let us know, and we'll do our best to get with you and get some mat time. Gary prefers no gi, but you can also make him put a gi on it and try to chuck him with it. Might be a little bit easier. But before we run out of fluids here, I just want to stay safe, sweaty, my friends, which I guess is another form of leaking.
And don't forget to shower.
Yeah, train hard, train smart, and try to train without leaking too much. Get better, guys, and we'll see you on the mats.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.